Thanks, everybody. So, Louie, how you doing?
I am good. Hope I look okay on camera.
You look fabulous. You look like a hunk of children's author, like a hunk of electric truck manufacturing. All right. So you bring up your slides. I'll give you your intro. So
Okay.
Louis Diaz works at Lion Electric, and his presentation today is Clean Air, Blue Bumpers, and Dragons, using storytelling to capture hearts and minds. So Louis Diaz is an energy accounts manager with Lion Electric, helping school districts and others with charging infrastructure projects for their heavy-duty EV fleets. He manages customer relationships, technical planning, contractors, utility and grant funding engagement, and participates in trade and regulatory affairs in the Western United States. He lives in Sacramento with his two children. And now, Louie, I would like to hand this over to you to teach slash entertain slash change culture. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Sean. Can you see my screen there? It should look like an
Huh?
animated or
Looks perfect. Yep.
image from my book. Okay, great. So, as the line from the Monty Python film goes, and now for something completely different, because I'm not going to talk about some of the really amazing technical work happening in the world, although I could probably speak a little bit on that as far as electrification of fleets because of my role with Lion Electric, as Sean mentioned. But really, I'm here today because I wrote a children's book about the benefits of cleaning the air with electric vehicles, and posted about it in the Building Decarb group, and Sean saw it and ordered the book and liked it enough to invite me here. So, I think all the great work everyone is doing is there's no replacement for that. But we also have to be salesmen a little bit of that message and help the public understand the need for this in terms that really kind of make sense to them, so that instead of fighting these changes, we're more like ushering in these changes. So what I was going to do today is just go through my book with you, show you what I've done. I'll start with just a little bit of history about myself. I actually was an educator for a long time. I taught high school science, and was kind of an early point of connection between Sean and I. But I loved doing the PG&E energy classes that were free, that were offered in Stockton and San Francisco, and I did some SMUD classes. Just couldn't get enough. And then when I bought my first house, there was a big billboard near my home where SMUD was offering to pay for most of the cost of a high level energy audit. And I was like, yes, sold. Within a month of buying my house, there was somebody doing a blower door test and a duct blaster and all of these great things. And they gave me the report and they said, it's going to be $16,000. And I said, where do I sign? Let's do this. And that was really just the beginning of my journey with energy. I ended up doing all the really hard stuff that would have been too expensive to make that project happen, like drilling the holes in the drywall in my house and pumping in the cellulose insulation, putting in the shade sails on the south and west sides of my house to prevent that solar heat gain. And I was a teacher, so I had the summers off. And it was like, okay, we've got a couple months. Let's see what I can destroy and rebuild in my own vision. So the energy efficiency and really trying to reduce the carbon footprint was almost a way to kind of just get a fix in for using my hands and creating. But I figured if that's where my true passion lies, I should probably do that professionally. So I decided to make a big leap in life. And that ended up leading me to Lion, where I was an energy specialist working with our school district customers and some others as well. There was some early refuse truck customers that I was consulting with on getting DC chargers onto their facility. And, I engaged the utility to try to see what's the size of the equipment they have on site. If we can determine what's their peak usage, and so therefore how much headroom do they have, and those kinds of things. And really, really enjoy that, but realized early on that our electric school buses that we were selling districts could be so much more, right? They could be a vehicle for change, if you'll excuse the pun. And so my teacher brain started working, and I started creating like a traditional kind of worksheet, right? Like, here's a question, fill in the blank kind of thing. And I thought, well, teachers are busy. I need to provide the whole solution, including the narrative with the answers to the questions. And as I was writing the narrative, this story just started to develop with this caring bus driver named Miss Leona, who, you know, was suffering from the diesel fumes and emissions that were coming from her bus. And it evolved a lot from there. But yeah, so I created the children's book, and I'd like to share that with you today. So I'll go ahead and actually get out of this, because this is a short presentation I have for afterwards.
And just so you know, I have my 7-year-old here. We're ready for this.
There we go. Okay. I think I'll need to, okay, no, there we go. So I just need to switch here. What's your 7-year-old's name, Sean?
This is Firelight.
I am a dragon person.
Yes.
Yeah, so when your book arrived, we immediately read it, and I loved the illustrations of the dragons. We're ready for this.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you. All right, Firelight and Company. This is the dragon-powered school bus. You can all see the cover of the book. I'll take that as a yes. Okay. So that's my inside front cover dedication. Henry waited for the bus, holding his new dragon card. The glass doors opened with a whoosh. He raced up the steps to the driver's seat. Miss Leona, check out my new battle card. It's a crystallized green dragon. I can summon it with 2 spell cards. I'll crush my opponent. Like a grape, I'm sure, she laughed. Miss Leona saw his hospital wristband. You been okay? I've missed you. I was at the emergency room, he said softly. I get asthma attacks. It's hard to breathe, like a red-eyed plasma dragon is sitting on my chest. It's worse when I run hard or breathe dirty air. Suddenly, he began coughing and wheezing. Henry searched his backpack and found a small plastic tube. He squeezed and breathed in the medicine. This inhaler stops the attack on my body. I don't want to miss any more school. My son had asthma attacks too, she said. Just like back then, she felt powerless to help. The bus chugged down city streets. Thick black smoke billowed out the tailpipe. Henry grimaced. Sometimes he could taste and smell the diesel fumes. I'm sorry about this fire-breathing dragon, said Miss Leona. I've been breathing his smoke for 20 years. Henry tilted his head. Dragons might be big and fierce, but people are smarter. We can defeat them if we use science and work together. But you have to believe. That day, Henry visited the school library. The books he checked out barely fit in his backpack. The next morning, Henry climbed the steps slowly. What's wrong? Asked Miss Leona. I woke up in an asthma attack, he said. My lungs felt plugged up. It was hard going back to sleep. That sounds terrible. It's okay, he said. My cards kept me company, and I read about how we can clean the air. Oh, what can we do? Electric buses don't burn diesel and gas, so there's no smoke or chemical smell, he explained. Electric, like a remote-controlled car? Yeah, but its batteries are way bigger, he said. And electric cars put energy back into the batteries to use again. Like recycling something instead of throwing it away, she said. Yep, and electric cars are quick, like my crescent fang moon dragon, he exclaimed, arms out in battle pose. Henry looked down. Miss Leona, will you try to get a new bus? I like our drives, and I want to get healthy. I want that too, she said. She returned to the bus yard and explained to her boss why an electric bus would help. Sounds great, he said, and expensive. My old bus needs to be replaced anyway, and we'd never have to buy fuel again. That would save thousands. He shook his head. Let's just wait. Miss Leona stood tall. Wait for what? More sick kids and dirty skies? We can't keep waiting to do what's right. All he could say was, you're right. The principal agreed because kids with asthma miss recess and sports. There's one more big step, Miss Leona told Henry. We have to convince the school board. Will you come with me? Henry nodded. I'll summon my dragon strength. At the meeting, the leader asked Henry why he came. Electric cars are quicker, cleaner, and safer, he explained. Anyone could tell us those facts, Henry. Why is this important to you? Henry remembered Miss Leona's son. 1 in 10 school kids has asthma. When they're sick, their moms and dads worry. We need cleaner air to keep pollution out of our lungs. What if Henry and Leona were in my family? They wondered. It was time to vote, and all hands rose for yes. When the moment is right, progress can't be stopped. Everyone celebrated when the new electric bus finally arrived. Miss Leona sat behind the wheel. Instead of a roar, it purred and glided quietly onto the road. A child pointed and waved, excited like young ones get about trucks and buses. Miss Leona's stomach tightened, remembering when plumes of smoke covered people. But the air stayed clear. Henry's words echoed in her mind. Science can help make things better. Kids climbed aboard. Wait, this bus is new, a child shouted. It's better than new. It's electric, said Miss Leona. And clean electricity can be made by wind, sun, and water. Henry took a long, deep breath. Today's ride is different. I don't feel like coughing. There's no smoke or nasty smell, just fresh air. Maybe you won't need so much medicine, said his friend. Henry took a marker and drew a new yellow bus on a blank card. It's a clear skies ice dragon, he said. Miss Leona and I summoned it together. He gave her the card. So you'll always remember me, even on my sick days. Thank you, she said, for teaching me that we have to believe to make things real. And just maybe, if we believe in a cleaner world, it will be a place fit for dragons. That's it. All right, I'm getting
like tears. I got like tears running down my face here. Like I'm a total mess.
Why?
Well, I don't know. It's a great story, and it's I mean, it's sad to think about kids suffering with asthma, right?
Oh man,
Like it's pretty intense. Like you wake up, you're choking. I've known lots of kids with asthma. It's a bad deal. So it's like it's a beautiful story.
Thank you so much. I can certainly relate to getting a little emotional. Like these days, like I'll watch an episode of Queer Eye and get teary like once or twice or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a testament to how deeply we can feel about these things when it makes us emotional. And by the way, Sean, I want to thank you just real quick for your celebrations and your just totally unrepentant cheering. It makes me cheer at home. Every time you cheer, I make it a point to cheer as well. So you're not alone, okay?
That's good. It's a little, it can be a little quiet in the Zoom world, but in the real world, we're all cheering. Like these are fantastic revelations for us.
We're here with you. So, so this leads me into a short presentation that I created on, the importance of messaging and really how this story is drawn from examples from real life. In my role at Lion, I was in the field quite a bit, visiting bus yards and talking to transportation directors about their fleets. And there was one guy, a few months ago that just said to me, when is my bus going to get here? It can't get here soon enough, because he had a bus where the bus driver would tell him, I can smell the fumes on the inside of the cabin. Everything is supposed to be sealed, but those fumes were getting into the vehicle, and it was just affecting quality of life for the driver, and I'm sure for the kids as well. So, if you think this is, some anecdote that perhaps doesn't happen very often, I believe it does. So let me go ahead and start my slideshow here. Okay. So why we do this work. We all want to fight climate change, decarbonize the grid, help lower energy bills, and save the planet. But I think sometimes it's hard for us to make the emotional connection for people sometimes. And so that's hopefully the role that my book fills. That image on the right is a wordart.com word cloud that I created because I was doing a project where we were trying to promote the benefits of induction cooking. And I thought, well, how can we show this in a way that people will really relate to it? So if you don't know how a word cloud works, you just basically take some body of text and you paste it into this website that counts the number of iterations of each word. And the more common a word is, the bigger it's represented in the final image. And so I took the first 100 Amazon reviews of the New Wave induction cooker, a little single burner unit that goes on your countertop. And I just plugged in those 100 reviews into wordart.com. And that's what it came up with. Really just a beautiful way to show immediately what induction cooking means to people, including myself. This was that last image from my book, from the afterword. I love this image. Probably my favorite image in the world of transportation electrification, because on the left, we have Fifth Avenue in New York City in the year 1900, right? There's one automobile among a sea of horses. 13 years later, same street, same Easter morning. There's only one horse that can be seen in this picture. So I think it's really important to put it into context, especially for kids, that the way things are now does not have to be how they are forever. So I think when we talk about storytelling, it's really important to think about how we can connect emotionally to people. And really good way to do that is through just personal connection. Things like anecdotes, personal stories, helping people see themselves in someone else or vice versa. Stories of people overcoming adversity or beating the odds, and stories of vulnerability and courage to help others, where people just really show up and make a personal sacrifice to help others. So one of the stories that I think really resonates with me in this fight for electrification and cleaning our air is the story of this young girl named Ella Kissadebra. And this is really, for me, a story of loss and courage. She was actually featured, one of the stories featured in National Geographic, April 21. And I saw this at the grocery store, actually, while it kind of in the early stages of writing the book. And when it said the fight for clean air, I knew that I had to buy that issue, and there'd be something in there that applied to my story. And sure enough, there was, and it was the story of this little girl. So that's Ella. She lived in London, just by all accounts, an absolutely precocious, sweet young girl. Loved dance, playing football, soccer, really over there, reading, playing music, just the joy of her mother's life. And you can see her there with her mother, Rosamund. And that's her in the days before she passed away of asthma at age 9. She died of a severe asthma attack, was rushed to the hospital, but the mucus that had at that point plugged her lungs and prevented oxygen from getting in was too much to treat. And she only started having these attacks almost at her 7th birthday. So she suffered with this for almost 3 years. And this was her 27th trip to the emergency room for asthma attacks. This had really come to dominate their life. You know, their whole life started just revolving around treating her illness, keeping her from having her next asthma attack. Rosamund had been a grade school teacher and left her work to do full-time care for Ella. And even after Ella died, the medical community still couldn't pinpoint what the cause of her death was. You know, it's known that asthma can be genetic. It could also be caused by airborne pollutants like mold, dust, and smoke. But the medical community never was able to identify it for Rosamund. But you know, they started putting the pieces together. Their home was on one of London's busiest roads. It's called the South Circular, and it's a major thoroughfare through town for light duty traffic as well as heavy duty commercial. And their front door was less than 100 feet from that road. And so, you know, as the story started to emerge a little bit, a specialist in asthma named Sir Stephen Holgate, he asked if he could take a look at the data and maybe pinpoint the cause of this asthma. And what he found was that he mapped Ella's major asthma attacks, and then he looked at the historical records of the worst air pollution days in London. And he saw a really strong correlation between those two things. Her worst asthma attacks happened when the air pollution and the air quality was the worst, you know, in London. So, as well as finding that the levels of stuff like PM 2.5 and NOx not only exceeded national limits, they far exceeded World Health Organization limits, which the national limits of British limits were even way higher than the World Health Organization limits. So Ella fought this battle to reopen Rosamund fought a battle to reopen the inquest or the coroner's findings and look at the cause of death for Ella. And she wanted air pollution added to the death certificate. It was very important to her that this be identified and properly attributed as some sort of closure in this death. And on December 17th, 2020, she got her wish. The Court of Inquest ruled that air pollution exposure be added to her death certificate. And it made national news, it made world news. Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote her a letter on the eve of this ruling, just basically saying, no matter how the court rules, you've already done so much to really improve the world and educate people on this. And furthermore, the court basically mandated that the medical community, the teaching colleges for doctors and nurses, and that municipal governments be accountable for this, for the excessive pollution levels, and for the fact that not once was anyone in the medical community able to advise this family that the smoke and the pollution from just outside their door could be causing this. And so this court essentially said never again, and put it upon the medical community and municipal governments to do something about this. And you can see here the response from Mayor Sadiq Khan of London. My ultimate ambition is for London to become a zero pollution city. And I hope Ella's legacy will be to inspire the change needed by all levels of government and the wider stakeholder community. So really just a testament to the power of story and a committed individual fighting for what's right. So really, really cool. And this also made it into my book, in this scene with Henry in bed, reading overnight. He couldn't go to sleep because of his asthma attacks. But this is eventually how he learns about the electric school buses and the benefits of electric vehicles. And there's a point where Ella actually says to her mother, this is on their website, she says, "Mama, we don't sleep anymore, after the umpteenth asthma attack." So really, yeah, that's powerful. The way that this is affecting people on a level that's it's easy to miss, but once we tell the story in a compelling way, really hopefully can inspire people to take action. This scene was inspired by my visits to different transportation yards of school buses of school districts. And Tim Shannon of Twin Rivers School District, you guys have probably heard of Tim Shannon, really a visionary and a leader in this world of school bus electrification. He was the transportation director at Twin Rivers Unified here in Sacramento, which is where I'm based, by the way. And they have the biggest electric bus fleet in North America. And just they want to go completely electric actually by the end of this year. He wants to completely flip his fleet of I want to say close to 80 buses. Right now they're electrifying their yard, they're putting in bi-directional chargers, they're going to be hopefully doing some pilots on V2G and that sort of thing. But when we were there for a bus delivery about a year ago, he told a story about a bus driver he used to have, that every day he would walk through the bus yard to get to his bus, he'd have a handkerchief over his face. And it was because the yard was so kind of just stuck with this low-lying cloud of diesel fume and diesel smoke that was one way to protect his lungs and protect his health. So I asked my illustrator, let's make sure we have a bus driver who's covering his nose, because that's real life. And then this guy back here who's pouring oil into the bus, that's a great talking point and a way to extend the lesson, to talk about how electric vehicles don't need oil, there's fewer moving parts, it's cleaner. And that leads me to a story with this gentleman named Ray Manalo, and he's actually kind of the day-to-day operations supervisor underneath Tim Shannon at Twin Rivers. Ray does webinars and talks to other school bus folks on how to do the transition and the benefits. And he told me a great story one time. I visited his yard and it was just me and him. And he shared this story with me that I thought was powerful. Before electric vehicles came along, this is probably 20 years ago, he worked as a bus mechanic at a school bus yard. So he was under the vehicles, doing the oil changes, constantly, doing the maintenance. And he said that every day he would be coated in this layer of grease and grime that just would take so long to clean off. It was really hard to clean off. And when his daughter was born, she was born premature at 3 pounds. So she was in the neonatal ICU. She was basically in a little bubble in the hospital. And every day after work, he'd have to spend a half hour in the shower under the hottest water he could stand, just trying to scrub the day's grease and oil from his body so he could go to the hospital and see his daughter and hopefully hold his daughter. He said it was enough that he was really considering leaving the trade altogether, just because he just wanted to be done with that feeling, that dirty feeling all the time. And he said even then he never felt clean, even after the scrubbing it down. So, really just another kind of microcosm into the world that this old dirty technology puts people through on a daily basis that most people never see. And I just tried to keep this story fun. I told my illustrator, let's put some Easter eggs in there if we possibly can to kind of keep uncovering the fun. So I said, let's make our school board president make a little bit like our actual president. So we've got a Biden sighting. We put in Einstein, and we put in like someone who looks a lot like Bill McKibben, who's a great hero of mine in this field. And I wanted to put the GOAT in there, right? The greatest of all time in football. And many of you guys know that's number 12, Tom Brady. So we've got a player that looks a lot like Tom Brady, giving the shout out to Miss Leona. Good job. I like seeing you. And there's the blue bumper that signifies an electric school bus. Those can be green as well. CEC funded buses take the green bumper. But, and what's great about that is shortly after the book came out, it came out that Brady was now the spokesperson for Hertz and their 100,000 Tesla plan for replacing their vehicles. So that was just so, I kind of felt a little bit like Nostradamus there. I saw it, and that was fun to post on my LinkedIn and everything. And I've actually...
I apologize, because we're about 2 minutes past. I should ask you to wrap up so I can hand off to the next person. And it's been a fabulous presentation, by the way.
Thank you so much. I can't believe I went over. I was stressing that I would end early. I have a website. I'll post the link, and anybody who would like a copy, you can order directly from me. For this conference only, I'll go $10 out the door, including your shipping. I'll sign it for you, anything you need. Please just email me. I'll put some stuff in the chat. I just want to get this in front of kids. I'm like, how do I give this free to school libraries and teachers so we can remove that obstacle, the obstacle of money, and that way to say no, because we need to get this in front of as many kids as possible. Here's some of the feedback I've gotten from kids when I asked them what was the message of the story. They wrote me poems. One girl wrote me an Earth Day poem after I read the book, just spontaneously. I didn't even ask for it. One real quick thing too, and this is going to be news for you as well, Sean. As of next week, I will be taking my talents to, not to South Beach like LeBron, but to SMUD actually. I will be taking my role to their commercial electrification program for electric vehicles. So very excited about that. No longer with Lion. Please use me as a resource though. If you have any questions about electric school buses, or if you're in SMUD territory, it's going to take me a little while to get caught up. I'm just starting out with them, but really hoping to make more projects a reality in the Sacramento area in the future.
Congratulations. They're lucky to get you, and you're lucky to get them. And that's perfect. Yay, Louie! Woo!
Round of applause. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.